Hey, look who it is. How you doing, Cheese Toes? A friendly reminder to believe in yourself and be proud for believing in yourself, because sometimes in this bonkers world, for some of us, that's the only person we can count on to do that, and that takes a lot. Welcome back to Microscope. My name's Mike. Well, oh boy, call me Rugs Bunny, because I'm going down a rabbit hole on this one, and you're coming with me, because we're back again with a fun time learning an episode, and today we're learning about the Bdelloid rotifers. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun one. Bdelloid, and yes, there's a silent B there, I'll get to that in a second, is a class of organism underneath the phylum of Rotifera, where it gets the rotifer name. Right? 450 different species underneath that class, and the word Bdelloid comes from Greek for leech. And I don't know if it's spelled Della or Badella. I don't know. I didn't research that part of it, but can we pick a lane in terms of the naming, either in Latin or Greek? Please, scientists, I said what I said. Sorry to all the scientists for getting sassy about the naming thing. Bdelloid rotifers are multicellular micro animals, typically 150 to 700 micrometers in size. They have a pretty simple body plan, a head, a trunk, and a foot, and we'll get to those in a second. Really no true coloration, however, their gut might often contain some food pigmentation, so color me up. What? The head of the Bdelloid rotifer houses the eye spots, the mouth, and is adorned with a crown of cilia, like two little pigtails, that they use to create a water current that brings food into the mouth. The trunk part is the reproductive process, as well as digestive system, like the mastex and the gut. It's pretty cool. And then the back part is called the foot, and it has a little adhesive gland that it uses to adhere to whatever substrate it wants to stick onto and start feeding. And it also has a pretty cool, simple central nervous system. So pretty complex creature here. Isn't that cool? Bdelloid rotifers are found in freshwater habitats like ponds, lakes, streams, and creeks. They're also found in bird baths, oddly enough. They love to eat that algae that grows in there that kind of gives a pink or orange color to your bird bath in the middle of summer that, you got to clean off for some reason. Two forms of locomotion of the Bdelloid rotifer that I have observed is one, they open up the crown of cilia and they start waving them, and they're able to use that kind of like a propeller of a boat to push themselves through the water. That's pretty cool. They also can go ahead and inchworm along, and I just think that's the cutest thing ever when they inchworm along. Like, where are you going? Where are you going to get to inchworming like that? Little goober. Most Bdelloid rotifers are filter feeders, suspension feeding to the technical scientist people. Essentially what they do is they create a water current to bring food into the mouth, as discussed earlier, and they feed on really anything that is fine enough or small enough to get picked up into that water current and fit in the mouth hole. Only eat what you can fit. That's what I say. Specifically, they'll eat things like bacteria, algae, and what is called detritus, which is typically mostly decomposing plant matter, but really anything decomposing that's floating in the water. Can't be picky in the microcosmos. The lifespan of the Bdelloid rotifer is hard to say. As with every organism, different species might have a different lifespan, but generally speaking, weeks, maybe months, a year in a laboratory. I said laboratory, though. I'm going to stick with it. Bdelloid rotifers play a huge role in their tiny little environment. They're mediators of microbial populations for bacteria and algae, but they also play a huge role in nutrient cycling, which is they eat food, they poop it out, it's food for something else. Very oversimplified, but you get the gist. They're also food for things like small little baby fish, microcrustaceans, Stentor caerulea. Really anything that is big enough to fit them in the mouth, they're going to get eaten. Yummy yum. And the reproductive process of Bdelloid rotifers is where things get really wild, let me tell you. The Bdelloid rotifers have never had an observed male, ever. They're all female, they're all capable of a process called parthenogenesis, where they're able to create an egg that develops into an embryo without need for fertilization from another partner. That's really wild. But you can't just make clones of yourself forever, right? That begs the question, how do they update their genes? It's kind of weird. There's two ways to think about it. One is a mutation, just random mutation of part of the genetic code, over my head type stuff. But two is horizontal gene transfer, which is any process outside of normal reproduction that would cause the gene of one organism to be incorporated into another. That's a rabbit hole, and it needs its whole episode. So that's what we're going to do on that. But here's a graph. Look at that graph. Hopefully that probably doesn't help, but we'll talk about it. Two special facts about the Bdelloid rotifers: they can go into a stage of anhydrobiosis where they can kind of hibernate for thousands of years. 24,000-year-old rotifer was found that was just hibernating. That's wild. But they can also repair their DNA incredibly efficiently, which may play a role in mutating the genes. And here's a fun but yet incredibly boring history fact. My main man, Anthony van Leeuwenhoek, discovered the rotifers in the 1600s. You really had to just note them all down. Proud of you for that. Well, this has been a fun one. I hope you learned something. And as always, I love you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Little poopy pants.